Hello, career thought leaders. It's good to see you today. And we are here every Tuesday, Trend Tuesday Live, talking about what you need to know to help your job seekers succeed in today's market. And today is going to be particularly evolutionary, revolutionary, whatever it might be, for you and for your work. Why? Because there are a bunch of conflicting data out there, and I did a deep dive to figure out why this data is conflicting and what it means for us. And I've got some awesome visuals for you from Notebook LM that shows why there's this discrepancy and what we need to be thinking about. So let's talk about what just happened. I think it came out a few weeks ago, but last week, Recruiter Nation from Employ dropped in their overview webinar, which I attended. And we look at Recruiter Nation every year. I've been watching it since 2015, used to be by JobVite, now it's by Employ, seeing the evolution of what's going on in recruiting. But I was particularly interested in some of the data that they had this year because it is so completely different than some of the other reports that we've been seeing. And I had to figure out why, right? What's going on? Organizations that are surveying hiring managers and recruiters coming out with such different endpoints of what is really happening in the market. So the first discrepancy that I want to dive into comes in when we talk about recruiters using, well, not just recruiters, that's part of the discrepancy, people who hire, when we talk about them using AI, why is this so different from one report to the other? And we're going to look at two different reports in this section, one being that Employ report called Recruiter Nation, and the other one being a report that I quoted in a post last week sometime related to how hiring is happening by Insight Global. So we're going to look at those two reports and how they are using AI, and then we're going to get into why the discrepancy is happening. So in Recruiter Nation, they tend to look at recruiters, right? The people who are in that seat using an applicant tracking system, not the hiring manager. That's one important piece for us to talk about. But let's look at the data here. Okay, so first we're going to look at the Recruiter Nation data, maybe, if I can find the right thing to share with you. Yes, okay. So Employ, JobVite, let's zoom in here a little bit. So this is their data. And you can see that if I can get it positioned right, this is how companies are using AI in this survey: candidate matching, intelligent sourcing, chatbots, career recommendations, these types of things. But the numbers are all super low, right? 40%, 50%. I think 50% is the highest number on this page, 55%, right? So this data, very different than the Insight Global data that showed 100% of C-level hiring managers say they're using AI as part of the process in their company. 97% say that they're using it for screening resumes or pre-screening interviews. I was like, what is going on here, right? You've got 40 to 50% on this page, and you've got 97 to 100% on this page. What is going on, right? Why is there this huge difference? And so I went in and I reading and doing some research and having Notebook LM help me with this lovely visual that it's so much fun. If you have not played with these in Notebook LM, you can upload reports and have it give you these infographics. Just so much fun. So let's see what we came up with here. So why the difference? There's likely other factors. And I found this really insightful, that you've got the recruiter who's restricted, right? They've got limits. They've got issues with compliance. They have to think about how they are using the tools. And that's why you get the 32% and the lower adoption in the recruiter report, the Employee Recruiter Nation, versus Insight Global, which the first time I read it, I missed the nuance that said that is hiring managers, not recruiters. So, what does that mean for our job seekers? It means that recruiters are using AI in a completely different way than hiring managers might be. And all of my little lovely colleagues out there who say, well, I work with directors or high level people and they're not getting scanned by AI. Oh boy, this Insight Global report says yes, they are, but not by people who know what they're doing. They're getting scanned by AI, by the hiring manager who is under pressure, doesn't have all those skills, doesn't have the right tools, but does have ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, where they can upload those resumes and see what are the gaps, right? The same things we're helping a client do with these generative AI tools. This report says 100% of C-level managers are doing this. Now, 100%, like, sure, maybe it's not that much, but that number is huge and incredibly revealing about what hiring managers, and they call it rogue AI use, right? Your actual hiring manager is using AI almost double, right? I mean, percentages, weird numbers, but they're using it way more than recruiters are. And they're using it more like the lay people you and I are, right? They're going into ChatGPT, Claude, uploading someone's resume and a job description, using it to create interview questions, which is one of the things we'll talk about, is that if I'm getting these tools and I'm using them to create interview questions, I'm actually asking more pointed, specific interview questions, because now I can put the information in and have it do this analysis of the job description, the resume. What are the gaps? What questions can I expect to get from those gaps? All of those things now our clients need to be ready to answer to. So the recruiter's not using it as much. They're trained, they're following protocol, all of that. Then you've got, but even then, there's some new tools rolling out for that recruiter space, like iHire, which we've been talking about, got bought by Zoom. Big player in that market right now that helps a competency-based hire happen instead of just, hey, I like this person. So you've got the AI tools for the recruiter that are getting more and fitting into their compliance issues. But then you've got this wild card of the job hirer themselves using these tools to try to do the same things for themselves, oftentimes without even talking to the rest of the organization that this is what they're doing. So our clients have to be ready to speak to the competencies. And yes, they still, I mean, obviously, they still need who am I and how do I add value? That's how they're different. It's also how they build confidence, that personal brand piece. But they can't just have the internal, ooh, my message and oh, my skills. No, no, no. They've got to figure out what lines up to the competencies that the hiring manager is hiring for. And if we can't help them marry those two, which is actually what personal branding is, right? Who are you? What's unique about you? And then why do the other people care? How are you lined up to their competencies, telling stories that connect to their competencies? If you're not doing both, you're in trouble in this new world of hiring. Because yes, connecting is important, but on the back end, why am I not going to do this if I'm a hiring manager, right? I can go take your interview, transcribe it. If I'm in Zoom, if I'm recording it, which most people are, right? Put that into an AI tool and say, how well do they match with the competencies? Plus, you've got iHire and Hire Logic and all these other tools that do that for someone. They're in a co-pilot. They sit beside you as you are interviewing the person live on Zoom. They're recording and they are scoring you based on the competencies as you talk. So it's not just your communication skills. That's important. It's not just your confidence. That's important, right? That's how you connect to the human. But you also have to have the competency piece where you understand what stories really matter, what stories show to demonstrate the competencies that matter. And that piece of it, that wraparound piece of it, it starts with who are you? What's your unique value proposition? That's your brand. That's your confidence. You show up with that. Then we've got to build on top of it the competencies that you need to demonstrate. And yes, of course, the communication skills to communicate those as well. So that full picture is just so fascinating to see, okay, why is there this discrepancy between those two things, between the way that AI is being used as a recruiter and the way that an AI is being used as a hiring manager. Not too surprising, right? You've got a bunch of people out there trying to make their jobs easier, really don't know what they're doing, but they're going to use the tools. If you want to know how to use the tools to help your clients, that's what we do in our certified interview and compensation negotiation coach class. It starts January 15th. Benefit from all the data we collect that actually helps you know what to help a client with beyond just the generic, yes, let's improve your skills. So let's go through another discrepancy that I found between these two reports. And this is where it comes into, well, actually, it's not between these two reports. It's between this Employer Nation report, Recruiter Nation report, and another report that we've been talking about for a while, which talks about the number of applicants per role. So Ashby came out with some data a while ago showing that the number of applicants per role had tripled, almost quadrupled in the past 3 years. And they are saying, okay, there's hundreds, thousands. I mean, we're hearing that from other recruiters, right? There's hundreds, thousands of applicants per role. And that may be true in some instances. So when we go through the Recruiter Nation report and they have this graph of how many applicants did you receive per job, just like blown out of the water. So let's look at it. Here we go. Yes. So how many applicants per job do you receive? And you see here 1 to 3, 1 to 50. Like there's some here 4 to 50 has some good numbers, but 200 plus, 100 to 200, pretty low. Right? What's going on with these numbers and why are they so different than what we're seeing in the Ashby report that shows that 300x number in recruit or in job applications? So of course we go to Notebook LM, we put in both reports, we start asking the questions and getting it to create a visual for us. So now we go to, this is more the reality. So 52% of recruiters saying getting more applicants is their top priority. That comes from that Recruiter Nation report. And then most applicant pools are surprisingly small and just a different visual, thanks to Notebook LM, of that same purple data that you were just seeing. But again, why the discrepancy between the Ashby report and this Recruiter Nation report? The tale of two markets. So Ashby, again, when you look at who are they asking, they are asking a lot of VCs, tech startups, the people that everybody wants to work for in not just Silicon Valley, because Ashby also works with companies out of Europe. But that's where you get these viral, what they call viral competition, is certain types of companies. On the other side, and I don't know, the hidden market, it did come up with that. I didn't tell it to do that. But this is where you see the employee and iHire data, where 45% of recruiters get 20 applicants or fewer. So if you're working with a client who thinks they're competing with hundreds of applicants, they may or may not actually be. And if they are, there may be other companies they could look at where they would not be competing with that many. And I just saw a report from the gentleman that does the economics reports for LinkedIn. I'm not remembering his name right now, except for that it starts with a K. But he was just sharing how small companies are buoying the hiring numbers right now. And this is that hidden market. It's not hidden. They're still posting their jobs, but they're maybe not posting them where people are looking because they can't afford to. They may be posting them in oh, ding, 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 Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups or other places where they do not have to pay or pay as much because they don't have the huge hiring budget that the other companies have. So how do we help our clients uncover those other opportunities that are not specific to the big companies, right? That aren't in the viral market. They're in the quote unquote hidden market. They're not trying to hide. They just don't have the money to pay to promote their job on LinkedIn. And if you've paid attention, we went through the LinkedIn jobs feature last week. If you pay attention, the promoted jobs come to the top, right? They don't have the money for that, or they just don't want to spend their money there, whatever it might be. So you've got to look at other places, creating that target list, digging in the target list to make it the smaller companies, to think about how do I uncover some of these gems of small companies who are hiring and aren't stuck in this viral market where they're getting hundreds, thousands of applicants per job. And there may be some like municipalities, some of those places are targets for big numbers of applicants too, right? They're easy, they look stable, everybody wants to work there. We've got to be careful about how much time and energy we spend on those types of applications. Not that it's not worth it, but you are going to be up against more competition than if you go uncover some of the small company gems that might get you further in the door. Yes, remote jobs versus in-person jobs. Remote jobs have shrunk considerably over the last few years, this year, last year specifically, and the number of applicants for those remote jobs is still really high. So how do we help people find the gems? And they may still be remote or hybrid opportunities, but with smaller companies, with companies that aren't, again, paying to be on flex jobs and those types of things, where they can uncover the opportunities that still have that flexibility, the hybrid piece, whatever it might be, and don't have the huge number of applicants. So thank you for sharing that, Dominique. So when we look at what's really going on in the recruiting market, one is recognizing there are two audiences in job search. We talk about this when we talk about the resume, and people will say, oh, recruiters don't care about your summary. Great, they're not the only reader of the resume. And if you write a good summary, the summary of your resume should be like the TLDR, right? Too long, didn't read. And the hiring manager should look at the summary as this is what the person thinks is most important. It's a little snapshot into who they are. You don't talk about who you are in terms of labels and adjectives. You show them who you are by the information, the accomplishments that you choose, the very, select phrases you choose in that summary. Recruiters are going to go straight to the experience section. So don't have something in the summary that you need in the experience section for that recruiter to see that you are qualified. It also shows, this data, recruiter trend data over time shows that they care about a clean, easy to read resume. And this is even more true as we get more applicants and as there's more AI slop in people's resumes. Clean, easy to read, and also, as we talked about a few weeks ago, specific to you and your stories. And now that's flowing over into the interview realm where, they've got a system that is checking your identity. They've got a system that's checking your answers, checking your speed, checking where you're looking to see if you are reading from somewhere. And it's just quite obvious. I don't even know that they need a system for that. But they also have these systems that are checking for your competencies. So you need to have that confidence, that presence, that brand of this is who I am. You also need to know that you're speaking to the competencies, which does mean we need to work on your stories a little bit, but not in terms of challenge, action, result, but in terms of, are you addressing the competencies of this job? Because if you're not doing that, it doesn't matter how good it doesn't matter how good your communication skills are, or, our salespeople that will say, in any room and I can win them over. That's exactly why they're creating these competency-based interview tools, is so that we're hiring people with the skills, not the people who just show up well and can talk anyone's ear off. Practice, strategy, research, putting all of those things together with the confidence and presence that comes from your brand. And of course, the practice in your communication skills, which we like to in our class. We bring a lot of tricks from acting and singing and things that are really tangible. One little thing, I saw somebody talking about how you slow yourself down, which I don't always do a good job of. But from my singing background, one of the ways you can slow yourself down is to put the consonant at the end of each word. When you put the D, the T, the S at the end of each word, you tend to slow down. You're enunciating better. So we use a lot of things, like I said, from acting and singing and tactical, practical tools to help you communicate better, no matter who you are. So I love, yes, Anthony will share the links for those reports. You'll see a blog show up on our Career Thought Leaders website soon with some of these lovely Notebook LM visuals, as well as those reports in it. So we'll drop that link here probably tomorrow, and with the write-up and the links and everything put in together. If you have any other topics that you think we should cover or anything else that you would like to know about, please let me know. A little hint at some upcoming events. I am hoping to round up some of our symposium speakers for next Tuesday, so you can meet some of the folks who you can learn from in person in San Diego, April 19th through the 22nd of 2026. Our deadline for the early registration price is coming up on December 18th. That's next Thursday already. How did that happen? So that is coming up, as well as I was putting up, our certified interview and compensation negotiation coach program starts January 15th. The big thing that I don't have registration up for yet, but you'll see it soon, is the release of our annual white paper on January 6th. A little early, but I want to get it down and get it in so that we can start talking about the insights and the outcomes from putting together all of these reports with our expert presentations who came during Career Jam, and putting out some real tangible, practical, data-based information that you can use with your clients. So RSVP on whatever channel you're on to catch our Trend Tuesday lives, and then you'll also get the announcements and the links for all of these upcoming events. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.